what's up you guys? I'm Sara Lubratt, and today we are going to be talking about my fall writing goals and why I'm not participating in NaNoWriMo this year. If you go on to enjoy this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could give it a big thumbs up because that really supports my channel, and subscribe if you have not already. And now without further ado, let's talk about my fall writing goals, which unfortunately does need to start with why I'm not doing NaNoWriMo. You can do research of this topic on your own. I'm only going to be bringing up a couple of the key arguments because I kind of just want to move past that and get into what my writing goals are. But basically, for those of you that are not familiar, NaNoWriMo stands for National Novel Writing Month. It happens in November, and the whole point of NaNoWriMo up until this year is for writers to write the rough draft of their book during the month of November in the sum of 50,000 words. If you hit the 50,000 word number, which is 1,667 words a day, you win NaNoWriMo. Now that NaNoWriMo has come out and said that they believe people who are anti-AI to be classist and ableist, completely alienates the base of writers that they have accumulated over the years, because writing 50,000 words in a month is no simple feat. That's hard. It's intentionally hard to write that many words. That's like the whole point of NaNoWriMo, is to like push yourself. So them coming out and saying that they support AI, they also had an AI sponsor, at least one, I can't remember if it was one or a couple. And I think that might be partially wise because they were getting funded from a company that produces AI. But saying that completely alienates the writers that actually show up and write the 50,000 words during a month. That's hard to do. I was talking to my mom about this, and she was like, "You mean I could use AI to write a book in a month?" I was like, "Well, that's their argument." And she was like, "Well, then that's not writing." And I was like, "That's my point. Like, if someone is having a computer write their book, it's not them writing a book." There are plenty of tools out there that can help people who are disabled. Or another argument that NaNoWriMo was trying to make was people who are disabled or poor, which, like, first of all, most writers are not the most like wealthy people on the planet. There are a couple exceptions, but most people don't have a ton of like financial resources. AI is not the fix to that. Like, there are tools that are available that will still help people write and edit their books that are not crazy expensive, but are also not using generative AI to do. So I, like many other writers who have done NaNoWriMo in the past, are pissed at NaNoWriMo right now because this is not what should be happening. This is not the stance that an organization that's like literally built for writers should be taking. Generative AI is a form of plagiarism. And if you are asking a program to write your book, it is not your book. You're not writing your book. Still worked up about this, apparently. It steals from writers and artists. It completely undercuts the human experience. If you can't tell, I am very against generative AI. I think it's dumb, and I think humans are the people that should be creating art. Anyways, I'm getting a little heated. Feel free to do your own research, but that is why I'm not doing NaNoWriMo this year. So anyways, now let's get into the more fun stuff, which is what I do want to accomplish with my writing goals this fall. Because there has been so much controversy around NaNoWriMo, a lot of the writers that I follow on Instagram have been announcing their goals for the fall, the winter, November, etc., and so on. Mainly on Instagram, of what their goals are going to be instead of trying to write 50,000 words in November, which I really like that writers are coming up with their own goals that are hopefully much more specific to them rather than like the overarching, "Oh, I'm going to try and write 50,000 words," when in reality that doesn't work for a lot of people. It's a great way to get a really bad rough draft on paper, which sometimes rough drafts just need to be really bad. I have written plenty of really bad rough drafts. But the goal that I saw and liked the most was an author, I'll put her up on screen because I'm spacing on her name right now, said that she wanted to do what she was calling Write-Win, which is writing winter. And I really liked that idea. Her goal was to write 100,000 words over the span of 3 months, which then works itself out to be roughly 1,086 words a day, to then achieve that 100,000 words over the span of the 3 months. And I think she was going to do November, December, January, which my brain really likes. Like, I love that concept. So I then decided to take that for myself. I was playing around with the idea of doing 100,000, but I know myself. And I also know that that is probably not like the most realistic goal I could set, because like I could write 100,000 words in 3 months if I was working on a project that required that, or if I was working on multiple projects is probably more realistic. But that's like not what my writing goal is right now, and I like really like that idea, but I also know that I'm not going to hit it if that doesn't resonate with me right now, and it doesn't really. So then I took that idea and I have kind of been playing around with that, and I think what I've settled on is that not for the 3 months of November, December, January, but for the 3 months of October, November, December, I have 2 shorter stories, as in like not 100,000 plus word novels, but I have 2 stories that I think will end up being somewhere between 30 and 40,000 words, so roughly like novella length. I'm calling these my palette cleansers after finishing Project DE, which I worked on for years, and at the biggest point, that book was like 260,000 words. I got it down to 108,000 words when I was done editing draft 7. But basically, after working on DE for so insanely long, I want some palette cleansers. So my goal for October, November, December is to write the 60 to 80,000 words that those 2 novellas would take up. I'm not putting an exact word count on this because I don't know what the stories will actually end up being, but that is my hope. So writing somewhere between like 20 to 25,000 words each month for the 3 months should get me to write these 2 first drafts of these 2 palette cleansers. One of them is my fantasy project that I call Project Veil, which has been an idea that I've had for probably about a year and a half now, and I've already started working on it. I am 6,000 words into it currently, and I'm having so much fun writing something else. Like it totally feels like a palette cleanser. It's so refreshing. It's so fun to work in a story that I know is going to be shorter. Like the whole story takes place over, I think it's like 72 hours. Again, I haven't finished writing it, so we'll see. I think it's like a very I'm going to call it bite-sized piece of writing just because my previous experience has been like multiple hundreds of thousands of words. This feels much more digestible, much more bite-sized, much more manageable to finish within a couple months. At least like the first draft. I will be editing it, obviously. But that's the first one, and that's probably the one I will work on first. And then I have another story idea that was a part of my sci-fi project that I called CBH until I started working on CBH like a year or 2 ago. And I got like 50,000 words into CBH. But then in doing so, I realized that one of the storylines, because it was 3 POVs, I realized that one of the POVs had nothing to do with the other 2, and it, in fact, still sci-fi, happened on another planet, so completely separate. And I've decided to spin that POV off into its own novella, which I'm calling my sci-fi romance project. I actually have a title that I really, really love for it, but at this point in time, I'm not going to share that because I do think that that could actually be like the title of this. Normally I come up with a placeholder title that I then abbreviate. So like DE, CBH, those were like the original concepts that I abbreviated because like they're not really titles. It's more what I call projects while I'm working on them. But for my sci-fi romance, I actually have a title that I think I really, really like. So that's the other project that I also think will end up being somewhere between 30 and 40,000 words. This story does not take place over 72 hours or anything, but the concept is much more bite-sized. And I think that that will be a very fun project to work on. It's not really like romance. It's more falling in love with like somebody's way of life rather than like the actual person. So I think that that will be a very fun project to start. And I have like probably the first like 2 chapters as a part of what I started writing a couple Novembers ago. So I have a starting point. So maybe my total will be closer to like 60,000 over the next 3 months. But I love the idea of spending my fall and like early winter months trying to write these 2 like palette cleanser novellas. I think that 20,000 words a month is very attainable. It's still a stretch, like don't get me wrong, but if I'm showing up for my writing and I'm putting in the time, I think I can hit that no problem. That was also one of my goals that I set at the beginning of the year, was I wanted to finish Project DE and whatever that meant. So I finished draft 7 and I feel like it's done. And then I wanted to start and ideally finish 2 more books or novellas. And when I set that goal, these are the 2 projects that I was thinking about, and I am so excited to get into those. Again, I've already sort of started my Veil project. That one's at 6,000 words, and then sci-fi romance is 2 or 3 chapters into it, which I will probably have to go through and probably rewrite. But I think I'm off to a very strong start. I'm very excited about my writing goals for this fall. I'm very excited about how attainable they are and how it feels really right for me, because sometimes when I set goals, I would just like set goals that just sounded nice because I wanted to like say that I had written that many words, instead of, you know, actually taking the time to go through what goals I actually had for myself and what felt realistic and attainable. And I think that these goals feel realistic and attainable, and I'm so excited to get started. I would love to hear what you guys are planning on writing this fall. Feel free to drop a comment down below and let me know what you'll be working on. Make sure that you like and subscribe if you want to follow along on this journey for me writing these 2 novellas that I'm very excited about. And thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.